The silent siege. The emergency lights cast an eerie red glow across the command center of Helios Station. Commander Elena Reyes stared at the tactical display, her dark eyes reflecting the dozens of hostile ships surrounding her home for the past 5 years. The massive research station, once humanity's pride at the edge of known space, now stood as their final outpost in the Arcturus system. "Status report," Elena demanded, her voice steady despite the chaos erupting around her. Lieutenant Caver looked up from his console, sweat beading on his forehead. "Hull integrity at 47%. We've lost contact with sectors 7 through 12. Evacuation pods are at 82% deployment." But he hesitated. "The Vraks are targeting them as they launch." Elena closed her eyes for a moment. 3,000 civilians and staff remained on the station. The Vraks Collective had appeared without warning 2 days ago, systematically destroying the station's defenses and communication relays. No one knew why they came, why they chose Helios, or why they seemed determined to eradicate every human in the system. "What about the distress signal?" Elena asked, turning to Communications Officer Zoe Bennett. Zoe shook her head. "We managed to get it out before they took down the quantum relay." But she didn't need to finish. The nearest human outpost was 4 weeks away at maximum FTL. By then, Helios Station would be nothing but floating debris. Outside the reinforced windows, Elena could see the alien armada. The Vrak ships resembled massive obsidian arrowheads, their surfaces absorbing rather than reflecting light. Humanity had encountered the Vraks only twice before. Both encounters had ended with complete destruction of the human settlements. No negotiations, no demands, no prisoners. "Commander," called out Security Chief Raj Patel from the doorway. Blood streaked down the left side of his face, his uniform torn and scorched. "They've breached the lower docking bays. We've got maybe 2 hours before they reach the core." Elena nodded, her mind racing. 2 hours to save 3,000 lives with nowhere to run. She turned to the central holographic display, showing the station's cross-section. Red indicators flashed throughout the lower levels as Vraks boarding parties advanced methodically through the station. "We evacuate who we can to the upper habitat rings," she decided. "Seal off all access points to levels 15 through 40. Rig the reactors for remote detonation." When Raj opened his mouth to protest, she cut him off. "If they want this station so badly, we'll make sure they choke on it." As her remaining officers rushed to implement her orders, Elena allowed herself one private moment of despair. Helios had been mankind's greatest achievement this far from Earth, a research station dedicated to peaceful exploration and scientific discovery. Now it would become humanity's latest tomb in a war they never asked for and didn't understand. She activated her personal comm unit. "This is Commander Elena Reyes to all Helios personnel. We are initiating Protocol Omega. All civilians proceed to emergency shelters in the upper rings. All security personnel report to defensive positions as designated. This is not a drill." Elena turned to her executive officer, Commander Jackson Way. "Send one final transmission on all channels, including the experimental quantum band. Tell them." She paused, considering her words carefully. "Tell them Helios has fallen. The Vraks are here in force. We will take as many with us as we can." Jackson nodded grimly and turned to carry out her orders. As evacuation alarms blared throughout the station, Elena studied the tactical display one last time. The Vrak ships had formed a perfect blockade around Helios, leaving no avenue for escape. Their formation was methodical, strategic, revealing an intelligence that made their silence all the more terrifying. "Message sent on all available channels, Commander," Jackson reported. "Though I doubt anyone's listening." "Someone is always listening, Commander Way," Elena replied softly, "even if they can't help us now." The next 90 minutes passed in a blur of emergency protocols, desperate defense preparations, and the heart-rending task of selecting who would hide in the limited secure shelters and who would stand and fight. Elena refused her own place of safety, instead organizing the remaining security forces at key choke points throughout the upper levels of the station. "They're through level 35, Raj reported over the comm. His voice was strained, punctuated by the sound of weapons fire. "We can't hold them much longer." Elena stood in the secondary command center, surrounded by her core staff. "Activate the automated defenses on levels 30 through 34. That should buy us another." "Commander," Zoe interrupted, her eyes wide as she stared at her console. "I'm detecting a massive energy signature at the edge of the system." Elena felt her heart sink. "More Vrax." "No, the signature doesn't match their profile," Zoe replied, her fingers flying across her console. I've never seen anything like this before." The main view screen flickered to life, showing a distant point of swirling blue light growing larger by the second. The fabric of space seemed to tear open, and through this impossible wound emerged a ship, then another, and another. Elena's breath caught in her throat. The vessels were unmistakably human in design, sleek and angular, bearing the insignia of Earth on their hulls. But they were unlike any ship she had ever seen in the Earth Defense Force. Each was at least twice the size of the largest human dreadnought, bristling with weapons systems she couldn't even identify. "Are you receiving this?" Zoe asked, her voice barely above a whisper. A message was coming through on all frequencies, clear and strong despite the Vrax jamming. "Helios Station, this is Admiral Marcus Chen of the Earth Defense Force Vanguard Fleet. We received your distress call. Hold position. We are engaging the enemy." The command center fell silent as the implications sank in. Earth had sent help. Impossible, unexpected help. "The lead ship is hailing the Vrax," Zoe reported, her voice steadier now. "They're giving them 60 seconds to withdraw from the system." On the view screen, the Vrax ships were already breaking their formation around Helios, turning to face this new threat. For the first time since they had appeared, the alien vessels seemed uncertain. "Those ships," Jackson whispered beside Elena. "They're not in any EDF registry I've ever seen." "No," Elena agreed. "They're not." The 60 seconds passed. The Vrax made no move to retreat. Instead, their vessels began to power up their primary weapon systems, the obsidian hulls glowing with crimson energy. What happened next would be recounted in hushed tones throughout human space for generations to come. The human ships opened fire simultaneously, not with conventional railguns or missiles, but with weapons that bent light and space itself. Beams of blinding white energy lanced out, slicing through the first line of Vrax ships as if they were made of paper. The alien vessels didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist, atomized in an instant. "My God," someone whispered behind Elena. The Vrax responded with a barrage of their own, their dreaded disintegration beams sweeping toward the human fleet. But the shots dispersed harmlessly against shimmering energy shields that hadn't been there a moment before. "How is this possible?" Jackson asked, his professional composure cracking for the first time. "We don't have this technology." "Apparently," Elena replied, watching as a second wave of Vrax ships vanished under the human assault. "We do." As the battle raged outside, Elena's comm unit crackled to life. "Commander Reyes," came a voice she didn't recognize. "This is Captain Sato of the EDF Indomitable. We're deploying strike teams to assist with your Vrax boarding parties. Please designate landing zones." For the first time in 2 days, Elena felt something like hope. "Copy that, Captain. Sending coordinates now." Within minutes, the tide within Helios began to turn. Armored figures materialized throughout the station's compromised sectors, wielding weapons that cut through the Vrax borders with devastating efficiency. The aliens, so unstoppable just hours before, now found themselves outmatched and outgunned. As Elena coordinated the counteroffensive from the command center, she couldn't help but wonder, where had these ships come from? How had Earth developed such advanced technology in secret? And why had they kept it hidden until now? Outside, the battle was already ending. The Vrax fleet, decimated and outmatched, began to retreat, their remaining ships jumping to FTL in desperate flight. For the first time in known history, the Vrax Collective had been defeated. As the last alien ship disappeared from their sensors, a new message came through. Helios Station, this is Admiral Chen. The system is secure. Prepare to receive boarding parties. We have much to discuss. Helena exchanged glances with her officers. The day had been saved, but she couldn't shake the feeling that everything they thought they knew about humanity's place in the galaxy had just changed forever. Open all secure docking bays, she ordered, and let's prepare to greet our unexpected saviors. Forged in fire. The shuttle from the EDF Vanguard docked with a gentle hiss of equalizing pressure. Elena stood at attention in the reception bay, flanked by her surviving senior officers. Despite the rescue, tension hung heavy in the air. The ships that had saved them bore Earth's insignia, but their technology was beyond anything the public Earth Defense Force had ever fielded. The airlock cycled open, and Admiral Marcus Chen stepped through. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with silver-streaked black hair and the bearing of someone accustomed to command. His uniform, though bearing the familiar stars and stripes of the EDF, featured subtle differences, more angular insignia, darker materials, unfamiliar technology integrated into its seams. "Commander Reyes," he said, extending his hand. "It's good to see Helios Station still standing." Elena shook his hand firmly. "Thanks to you, Admiral. Though I have to admit, your arrival was unexpected." "I imagine it was," Chen replied with the ghost of a smile. "We have much to discuss, but first, let me introduce Captain Nadia Volkov, my second-in-command, and Dr. Elias Wright, our Chief Science Officer." A stern-faced woman and an older man in a modified science division uniform stepped forward, nodding in greeting. "Perhaps we should continue this conversation somewhere more private," Chen suggested, his eyes scanning the docking bay where dozens of station personnel had gathered to catch a glimpse of their rescuers. Elena led the delegation to the station's conference room, which had miraculously survived the attack intact. Once the doors closed behind them, she turned to face Chen directly. "I appreciate the rescue, Admiral, but I believe we're owed an explanation. The ships you command, that technology doesn't exist. At least we've been told it doesn't exist." Chen exchanged glances with his officers before nodding. "You're right, Commander. As far as the public and most of the military are concerned, it doesn't." He activated a small device on his wrist, and a field of static briefly surrounded the room. "We're secure now. What I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. The Vanguard fleet isn't part of the regular EDF," he continued. "We're a black project, developed in secret for the past 15 years, ever since our first encounter with the Vrax." 15 years, Jackson interjected. "But that would mean—" "Yes, Commander Wei," Dr. Wright spoke up. "It means we knew the Vrax were coming long before the public was informed. Our first contact wasn't 5 years ago, as the official record states. It was 15 years ago, when a deep space research vessel encountered a damaged Vrax scout. They captured it, studied it, and realized what was coming. Earth formed Project Vanguard immediately," Captain Volkov added, her voice carrying a slight Eastern European accent. "The most advanced ships, built in secret orbital facilities beyond Neptune. The best personnel, recruited and sworn to secrecy. And technology." She gestured to the subtle enhancements visible on her uniform. "Technology derived from what we learned from that scout ship." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "You reverse-engineered alien tech." "Among other things," Chen confirmed. "We knew conventional weapons would be useless against the Vrax. We needed to level the playing field." "But why keep it secret?" Elena demanded. "Do you know how many colonies we've lost? How many people have died?" Chen's expression hardened. "Every loss weighs on me, Commander, but we couldn't reveal our hand until we were ready. The Vrax have been probing our defenses, testing our conventional military response. If they'd known what we were building, they would have struck with their full force before we were prepared. The tactical reasoning made sense, but it did little to ease the knot in Elena's stomach. So what changed? Why reveal yourselves now? Because Helios wasn't just any research station, Dr. Wright said. Your quantum communication experiments were the final piece we needed. When we received your distress call on the experimental quantum band, we knew we couldn't let the Vrax destroy your work. Before Elena could respond, the conference room door slid open, and Raj burst in, his face grim. Commander, we got a situation. 3 Vrax destroyers just dropped out of FTL on the far side of the planet. They're on an attack vector. Chen was on his feet instantly. They must have called for reinforcements before we engage. He activated his comm unit. Vanguard, this is Chen. Deploy interceptors and prepare the main battery. Belay that, came a voice from the Vanguard. Admiral, the Vrax ships aren't attacking. They're broadcasting something. Elena and Chen exchanged glances before rushing to the bridge. On the main view screen, the 3 Vrax vessels held position at a distance, neither advancing nor retreating. They're transmitting on all frequencies, Zoe reported from her station. I think it's a communication attempt. In 15 years, the Vrax have never attempted communication, Volkov said, her voice tense. This could be a trap. Or, Elena suggested, it could be that they're as surprised by your technology as we were. Maybe you've finally given them a reason to talk. Chen considered this for a moment, then nodded. Put it through. The view screen flickered, and for the first time, humanity gazed upon the face of a Vrax. The alien was vaguely humanoid, with mottled gray skin stretched tight over an elongated skull. Its eyes were large and entirely black, revealing nothing of the intelligence behind them. Human vessels. The Vrax spoke, its voice translated through the computer, each word stilted and mechanical. You possess forbidden technology. Explain. Chen stepped forward. I am Admiral Chen of Earth. We developed this technology to defend ourselves against your unprovoked attacks. The Vrax seemed to study Chen for a long moment. Impossible. Humans are a primitive species. You cannot have developed quantum displacement weapons independently. We had help, Chen replied carefully. From one of your scout ships. The alien's reaction was subtle but unmistakable, a slight rippling of its facial features that might have been the Vrax equivalent of shock. You captured Vessel 471, it stated. This explains much. You must surrender this technology immediately. It is forbidden by the Conclave. What Conclave? Elena asked, stepping forward beside Chen. The Vrax's black eyes shifted to her. The Galactic Conclave, the governing body of spacefaring species. Humans were deemed too aggressive for admission. You were to be contained until evolutionary maturity. Understanding dawned on Chen's face. You weren't attacking us because you wanted our resources or our territory. We were enforcing quarantine, the Vrax confirmed. As mandated by the Conclave, species with your aggressive tendencies must not acquire advanced technology until psychological evolution occurs. Elena felt a surge of indignation. You've been killing us to keep us primitive. By whose authority? By consensus of 17 elder species, the Vrax replied, as if explaining to a child. Your existence threatens galactic stability. Chen's expression hardened. And yet here we stand, with technology you thought beyond us, having defeated your forces. Perhaps the Conclave underestimated humanity. The Vrax was silent for a moment. This situation is unprecedented. We must consult with the Conclave. You will remain in this system until a determination is made. That's not how this works, Chen replied firmly. You attacked human settlements without provocation or explanation. You attempted to destroy this station. We defended ourselves with the tools at our disposal. If your Conclave wishes to discuss terms with humanity, they will do so as equals, not as jailers. The alien's posture changed subtly, its head tilting in what might have been consideration. You speak with unusual authority for a quarantined species. We're not quarantined anymore, Alina interjected. Your plan failed. Adapt to the new reality. After a long pause, the Vrax spoke again. We will withdraw and relay your position to the conclave. A diplomatic envoy will be dispatched. The alien's black eyes seemed to bore into Chen. Be warned, human. The technology you now possess carries grave responsibilities. With that, the transmission cut off. The three Vrax ships pivoted in perfect unison and disappeared into FTL jumps. The bridge fell silent as the implications settled over everyone present. So, Elena said finally, there's a galactic community out there, and they've been keeping us caged like animals. Not anymore, Chen replied, his voice steady. Today, humanity broke its chains. The question now is what we do with our freedom. In the days that followed, Helios Station became the center of a new era in human history. Emergency repairs were underway, with the Vanguard fleet providing protection and resources. The station's quantum communication research, now understood to be the key that had drawn both the Vrax's attention and humanity's secret defenders, continued under joint oversight. Elena found Admiral Chen in the observation deck late one night, staring out at the stars and the imposing silhouettes of his fleet. Penny for your thoughts, Admiral. Chen glanced at her with a tired smile. I'm wondering if we did the right thing. For 15 years, I've been preparing to defend humanity against the Vrax. I never considered we might be forcing our way onto a larger stage. Would you have preferred we remained ignorant, caged? No, he admitted. But the Vrax weren't wrong about everything. We are an aggressive species. We've fought ourselves nearly to extinction more than once. Alina moved to stand beside him, looking out at the vastness of space. Maybe that's exactly why we shouldn't be caged. We've learned from our mistakes, evolved because of our challenges. This conclave tried to deny us that opportunity. And now we'll have to prove ourselves worthy of the technology we've stolen, Chen mused. Not stolen, Alina corrected. Earned, through ingenuity, determination, and the will to survive against impossible odds. She turned to face him fully. That's the human way, Admiral. We don't wait for permission to exist. Chen nodded slowly, a new resolve settling over his features. The conclave's envoy will arrive within the month. We should be ready to show them exactly what humanity is capable of, not just our weapons, but our vision. As they stood there, the stars seemed somehow brighter, the universe both larger and more within reach than ever before. Humanity had taken its first true step into the galactic community, not as a primitive species to be contained, but as a force to be reckoned with. The battlefield that had been Helios Station now stood as a testament to human resilience and ingenuity. Against all odds, they had survived. Against all expectations, they had triumphed. And this was only the beginning.